Jujutsu Kaisen is working its way toward the conclusion of the manga, and it is no secret that the author is racing to tie up each loose end. With the showdown in Shinjuku officially wrapped up, the direction will be geared toward massive reveals and crucial lore toward the last chapters. These forthcoming scenes will surely delve deep into the profound elements in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen and might just set the path for the New World Order in Japan. Chapter 269 throws much light on the lore of the three great clans. However, the most longed-for moment for the fans must have been the mystery situation surrounding Yuta's fate. Finally, the question was answered, and it was a relief to see that their favorite sorcerer Yuta has finally come back into the story. His return means a lot, especially as the series is fast moving to the finish line with still lots to be unfolded. Anyway, before we continue, please press the like button and please subscribe to my channel and turn on all post notifications so you don't miss any daily uploads. Now, let's begin. First, let's talk about the return of Yuta. In Chapter 269, Yuta played a vital role in the fight against Sukuna and will probably be the MVP of the Shinjuku showdown. Right after Gojo, Yuta's first big move was taking Kenjaku out of the equation, which he did with the help of Todo. Yuta not only decapitated Kenjaku, but also stabbed him through the brain and copied his technique, all thanks to Rika consuming him. Yuta didn't stop there and went further with Sukuna into his domain, authentic mutual love. The said domain was capable of defeating Sukuna. However, because of Megumi's weakened state, the domain was far from totally being able to apply the said effect to its fullest. By now, one could see that what Yuta was doing was huge. However, Megumi refused to counterattack, making Yuta really vulnerable. This strike of Sukuna, world-splitting dismantle, knocked him down. Following this, we intervened and teleported Yuta away. It's here that Yuta employs Kenjaku's copied technique, jumping into Gojo's body and back to face Sukuna. Even as Yuta became incredibly more powerful in Gojo's body, it's clear just how much training Gojo has undergone to master those abilities. Even when he turned to a hollow purple strike, it did not have the same impact as Gojo's, further solidifying the fact that Yuta was incomplete when wielding the strength he had borrowed. Finally, his time in Gojo's body did end, and Yuta's fate remained unclear. This was one of those moments left hanging that set up Chapter 268 and had fans eagerly waiting for the resolution of Yuta's story and major upcoming plot points. Finally, Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 269 confirms the return of Yuta. At the very least, one could make an educated guess from the previous chapter where Yuji said they needed to go save Yuta. But now it seems that yes, he's back. Of course, it wasn't necessarily an easy return. Maki was angry with Yuta, and now we do know why. Once Yuta lost control of Gojo's body, it all starts to spiral more. Kenjaku's technique ran out, which translated to the time Yuta got disconnected from Rika since he was still in Gojo's body. However, once the technique expired, Rika was allowed to reconnect with Yuta's body, even though it had technically died. Thanks to Rika's healing, she had kept Yuta tied to life long enough that he could make it back. Otherwise, he wouldn't have survived. This was their link that allowed Yuta to return to his original body, and the method for this was probably some sort of brain transplant. With all the experience he has gotten from controlling Gojo's body, Yuta is much stronger than he used to be, and he solidified a position as the strongest sorcerer after Gojo. Gojo's fate is still blindfolded in front of them. If such a character like Yuta, who had died, made his way back, then probably Gojo is also supposed to return. All are really looking forward to this, and the coming chapters will probably let everyone know what actually happened to him. Hopefully Chapter 270 or 271 will give us all the answers we're looking for. By now, Yuta doesn't seem to have any solid direction in the story, which is pretty much the case with most sorcerers. Since Jujutsu Kaisen is already nearing its finale, there seems not to be much that is left to do for the characters other than probably reshaping society and finding a way forward. As limited as his role has been in Jujutsu Kaisen 0, the movie does not imply that Yuta will remain that way in further development and sequels. Most surely Gojo is out of the picture, and it was really established that Yuta stepped up as one of the strongest, if not the strongest, left alongside others like Yuji. In many ways, The future of Yuta is clear. He's the one who will have to shoulder the responsibilities Gojo once did. That is to say, not only protecting society from the danger of cursed spirits, but also being the leader and mentor to the next generation of sorcerers. He's in such a position that people look up to, and though he may never be on par with Gojo, in terms of raw strength, Yuta's gonna hold everything together. With that said, Yuta pretty much becomes some kind of next Gojo, a figure that the sorcerer world is going to depend upon. That being said, to some fans, the way his character arc wraps up feels underwhelming. On the other hand, in case a JJK sequel were finally to appear, the story of Yuta might have room to continue to grow. For now, fans will simply need to wait and hope it comes out. Now let's get into the potential sequel for Jujutsu Kaisen. With what transpired in the Shinjuku Showdown arc, fans saw both main antagonists of the series, Sukuna and Kenjaku, fall. Still, if you were to ask most fans, both plot resolutions left them wanting so much more. First off, take Kenjaku. He's been hyped as this immense villain, pulling strings from the backside, and his defeat was highly unmatching with that hype. Fans were expecting way more from such a character. What we have is instead a rushed ending and very underwhelming at that. Kenjaku's defeat disappointed readers like one of the series' biggest villains had gone out in the worst way. Meanwhile, the Sukuna ending was unexpected too. For certain, they wanted to see a much fiercer fight between Sukuna and Yuji. Of course, Sukuna was fighting against numerous sorcerers in Shinjuku. Nevertheless, all felt incomplete at the end. Yuji finally managed to kill Sukuna with his new powers. Sukuna was torn out of Fushiguro's body and was torn into pieces. For now, it seems like Sukuna's storyline is complete, but the world of JJK does see the return of curses even stronger than before after they have died. So for the meantime, he's gone. But one can always wait for the return of Sukuna to be far stronger. For now, however, that leaves the viewers with an unsatisfactory conclusion about what could have been expected. When Yuta lost control over Gojo's body, many had speculated whether the merger Kenjaku entrusted Sukuna with was finally going to take place. That moment would have opened ways to an even bigger disaster, getting started posing an even bigger crisis to the sorcerers. But surprisingly, that plot point was never visited again. As the story went on, it became obvious he had decided to drop the concept altogether. Nevertheless, readers still wished the whole novel would not be left on such a bleak note. What was actually expected was that the sorcerers were supposed to turn the murder around and give birth to a new, much more equal society. That never came as, did not even the merger itself. One of the many reasons why this ending has kept fans unsatisfied is that, well, it was expected that at the end somehow there would be a more complete closure of the story, and now interest has emerged in a second part of Jujutsu Kaisen. What really let down most of their readers was the fall of Kenjaku and Sukuna. A second part of JJK could correct these defects, as would have been done by returning Sukuna or giving more resounding closure to Kenjaku. In any case, there are still so many ways in which Kenjaku could return. It leaves room for a far more complete story. Not to mention, Part 2 could explore how the merger actually could be triggered after all, a new enormous threat, perhaps even bigger than Sukuna 2, which the sorcerers would have to shift their attention. This leaves the door open for a continuing resolution of these plot points and providing closure for the fans who have been waiting. One of the strongest arguments for a Jujutsu Kaisen Part 2 is the need for better character development for the main cast. Fans have always seen Yuji, Fushiguro, and Nobara as the core trio of the series. But when you look at the actual roles they played, it's hard to even call them the true main characters by the end. Nobara was barely in the story, only to be brought back toward the very end. Fushiguro, who seemed like he was set up for a significant arc, was taken over during the most critical part of the story, losing all his potential growth. The way their arcs were handled left fans disappointed, feeling like they didn't get the endings they deserved. That's exactly why there's so much talk about JJK Part 2. These characters need another chance to step into the spotlight, to show the world what they're truly capable of. Even Yuji, who went through intense training and showcased major growth in the battle against Sukuna, feels like his development was rushed in the final arc. It's almost as if none of them got the proper attention that would justify their journey throughout the series. If there's ever going to be a continuation, it would make sense for it to focus on this trio, finally giving them the depth and focus that fans have been waiting for. For many, this lack of proper development is one of the biggest reasons. JJK needs a continuation. It's not just about picking up the story where it left off, but about doing justice to the characters that have been with us since the beginning.